Hey, welcome into this week at Gridiron Icon. I am really excited to have on a guest I've been chasing for a short time, a high school football coach, and one that you may have seen recently on Twitter with some of his motivational advice, comments, and all kinds of good stuff for high school football players. I'm on here with Coach Curt Hines, who is currently the head football coach for the Coronado Islanders in the San Diego, California area. And man, I love the history with you, Coach. You have coached at almost every level of the game: running back, special teams, offensive coordinator, East Coast, West Coast. Welcome, Coach Hines.
I appreciate you having me on. It's a blessing to finally connect.
I'm really excited to have you on here, man. For a long time, we've wanted to have someone with your experience and to be totally transparent, your heart. I mean, just kind of taking a look at some of the stuff that you're doing for high school football players, I think is really, really important, especially in such a weird time with COVID and the state of the world to see somebody who cares about the kids and is putting their best foot forward for high school football. After all, that's where it all starts, right?
Amen. Well, it means a lot coming from you, so I appreciate that.
Oh, absolutely, man. Appreciate you taking the time. So we want to dig in a little bit with Coach Hines. The high school game obviously is big in our country, and kind of get a feel for, and I love the perspective because you're East Coast and West Coast. Your career started there and came here due to family. And let's dig in on that. Let me ask you, just what is it? Take us back. You were a high school football player. Where'd you play? What position did you play? What drew you to the game? And maybe you were a multi-sport athlete. Tell us about you.
Yeah, so I grew up in Barrington, Rhode Island. Beautiful little state,
Wow.
but a very little state. Grew up playing baseball. Baseball for one season, hockey and football. Really what drove me to football was baseball. Second grade, I was up for bat twice in the same practice, got hit. And I remember like it was yesterday. Little kid up there, ready to hit the bat and got hit, probably too fat and too slow to react in time. And I remember the coach saying, take a base. And true to this day, I remember thinking to myself, he just hit me. Like, I get to walk to a base. Like, this dude just hit me with a ball. So my baseball career was one and done. One T-ball, if you will, or just a step above that season. Started playing football and absolutely loved everything about it. I was blessed to be raised by two loving and caring and active, hands-on parents, the middle of three children. I've always loved life. And the reason I say that is because I love the violence of football. I have no pent-up anger, nothing I need to release and get out. But I love the beauty. I love the chess match. I've always felt football is like a chess match on steroids and speed and all the things, you wouldn't normally hear a coach or a teacher talk about. But love the game. Played high school, from second grade through high school. Played Division III college football at Plymouth, New Hampshire, Plymouth State.
Nice.
And as we were just talking offline a little bit, I made a conscious decision to play Division III football because I have no mixed understandings of who I was as a player. I was a very good, I'm using air quotes, player in Rhode Island. Love Rhode Island, but it's not Texas or Florida or you name it. So I knew going to Division III football I could compete. There were still some great studs there and fight for a starting position. Whereas if I went to a Division I school, I wouldn't have seen the field much. So that's it. And I've been coaching high school football now for 24 seasons.
Oh man, that's incredible. And I got to tell you, I can relate to almost everything you said there. I didn't go on to play Division III because frankly, I was just too slow. But I absolutely love the story. And it's amazing to talk to a lot of coaches who start out at that level, just a love for the game. You just reminded me of Steve Young's quote. It's on one of those famous NFL films, with the music pounding in the background, that football is a great metaphor for life. Joe Namath said it too. And you're clearly one of those guys that embrace that. So what position did you play? You look like a running back, man.
Oh man, I love you now. I love you.
No, I guessed.
Well, you guessed wrong. I just love the compliment. I was a center and defensive end in high school.
Okay.
Was able to play on all special teams. In college, I played tight end. And all my buddies will tell you I was more of a blocking tight end than a receiving tight end, which is not far from the truth. And coaching, I've coached a little bit of everything. I'm an expert in nothing, but passionate about everything. So it's worked out.
Oh, I love it, man. I love it. Do you see, as you coach your kids now, do you see a lot of yourself in them?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
It's funny. So I teach elementary school full time. I've always taught regular classroom first through fourth grade over the years, excuse me. And often people would be surprised by that. And they either assume that I'm a police officer in the military or a bouncer at a bar. So no, I teach elementary school.
You got the look, man. You got
A
the
little
look.
bit. And then they will often say, oh, just the kids must be so terrified of you in fourth grade. And I said, I haven't once in 27 years teaching raised my voice in the classroom. And I really think that my success as a teacher and as a coach all comes down to one thing, and that's love. I love what I do, but more importantly, I love the children I'm blessed to coach and teach. And I realized, I think it was my first or second year teaching high school football as a head freshman coach. And I gathered all the players in, had a brief little message, and I said, hey, go take your lap, and we're going to start stretching. Everyone started jogging except for one player, a freshman in high school, who came up to me with tears in his eyes, and he had broken up with his girlfriend. And I remember looking at him. In my mind, I'm like, oh my gosh, I would never, back in the day, go up to my coach and start crying and show those emotions. But I love that he had the courage to do that. And I remember saying to him, hey, listen, be where your feet are. For the next 2.5 hours, your girlfriend or ex-girlfriend will still be there waiting for you or not after practice. But let's just have our best practice yet. And it was something that still to this day through Facebook and Twitter, he will remind me of that conversation that just stuck with him and myself as well. But I think football players are a lot like elementary school children. And I don't mean that as a knock. I think we all, even adults, we want to be valued. We want to know we're making a difference. We want to be loved. And people can come up with different words of how they say that. But I think sometimes as coaches and teachers and parents, we overcomplicate things. And if our players, our students know that we love them, not because of what they can do on the field or in the classroom, just because of who they are, the sky's the limit for all of us.
I love that, man. I couldn't agree more. The world has changed from when guys like around our, I'm a little bit older than you at 54, but we grew up in an era where, you had to just tough it out. I'm going to steal that. Be where your feet are. Yeah. I'm stealing that one, man. That's great. See, you're motivating another guy.
And I'll tell you too. So I had a young man, I won't say his name, but came out for football 2 years ago. He had never played before. Reached out to me with this real long text and said his father had played baseball and football at the University of Arizona, went on to play for the Padres for a few years and passed away. When the young man reached out to me, his father had passed away 6 months earlier of a brain tumor. And heartbreaking. And I met with him, and he ended up playing for that season. And he told me, Coach, I'm only going to play for one season because I'm probably going to get drafted, for baseball early on. And I loved it and met with he and his mother. I had a chance to pray with them. And he, before one game, it was an away game, I saw him. He's such a chipper and happy guy. And I saw him in the locker room just with his head down, and he didn't look right. So I went over to him and asked him what was going on. And he said it was just around a year at that time that his father had passed. So I gave him an out, and I said, listen, you don't have to play today if you don't want. He was a starting corner. I said, you don't have to play. This what you're dealing with is a lot bigger than football. And he goes, no, Coach, I want to. So I said, well, when we go out on the field, let's talk a little bit more. So we went out there, and I'm sure I read it somewhere. Be where your feet are. I'm sure I did not come.
I love it.
But for me, it's just, hey, feel the turf under your cleats. Feel the sand between your toes, or whatever it is. So often in life, myself included, we miss the blessing of the moment because we're stressed about things that have already happened that we can't change, or we're looking too far ahead, good or bad, looking down the road. So I think being where your feet are is such a powerful metaphor for me. And we say to our players all the time, just these days are not going to last forever. Good or bad, they're going to move on. Just be where your feet are.
Man, I've honestly never heard that. I feel like football meets Eckhart Tolle here on Gridiron. I absolutely love that. I've never heard that phrase, but I'm stealing it even for me. No, that's fantastic, man. So how did you get into coaching? You go from being a player. I absolutely love kids in the fourth grade range. That's just when they're fun. Amen. It's basically boogers and pigtails. They're still in that great range. They haven't gotten full of themselves yet when the teen years hit. How did you transition from a player into coaching? Because you've had a heck of a journey at almost every level of your journey in this world.
What happened was, as soon as I found out my modeling career wasn't going to take off,
you still got a shot, man. You still got a shot. Stick with it.
Maybe for the sight impaired or whatever. No, it's funny. I always knew I wanted to be a school teacher, which is funny because I was a horrible student. For me, it was a seventh grade math teacher Mr. Nicholas back in Barrington, Rhode Island, who would sit on his desk at the beginning of every class and just talk to each of the students about life. Nothing formal, nothing scripted. It was just, Curt, how's football going? Sally, how's field hockey, or whatever it was. And I remember thinking to myself in 7th grade, like, this guy cares. And it was at that moment I thought, I want to do that. I want to do something where I can make a difference, because I really connected with him, and he connected with me. Coaching, it wasn't until my senior year in college, a professor had come up to me and said, hey, there's a middle school down the road that has a flag football team with some special needs students on it. They're looking for someone to coach their team. I said, I'd love to. I'd absolutely love to. And it was the first practice that there was a young girl there, probably 6th or 7th grade, who I tossed a football to underhand from 5 yards, maybe 5 yards apart. And she dropped it over and over and over. And it was the 5th or 6th time that she caught it. And I'll tell you, I'll never forget the look in her eyes. And I get emotional about it sometimes. It was like her whole world just changed. She became the happiest. And a lot of children, if you've ever been around someone with Down syndrome, especially, they're just happy people. They just, my gosh, they light up the world. So her eyes already were on fire, and she just lit up even more. And that was the first time I thought, I want to do that. I want to coach. So my wife and I got married at 22, had a daughter at 19. We were real young, getting out of the gates. And when I got my first teaching job, I taught for 3 years, and then I went to 4 years. I went to a different town and reached out to the local high school head coach. And I was so blessed, because it was a program that the coach knew football, he knew people, and he loved them both. And wow. I think that's what it takes. So I was able to learn from a guy that really understood a lot of just what it's about. And I met with him just to be a volunteer. I was like, I'll hold bags, I'll bring waters around. I just want to get my foot in the door somewhere. And he said, we need a head freshman coach. So for 7 years, I was a head freshman coach. And man, some of the best years coaching, made a lot of mistakes. Had 2 of those seasons, I had no assistants. So I had to coach a little bit of everything. So it wasn't the best at all by any stretch of the imagination for the players, but really built some amazing relationships. And then after 7 years there, he every season he would say, hey, Curt, come up to the varsity. I'm like, I'm good. Like, I didn't even want to be a varsity coach. I'm like, I like my own little thing down here. I got a call from the head coach of the town we lived in. And he said, hey, we're tired of coaching against you. I would also help out in the varsity games. And, he's like, we want to have you, on our staff. Went there, and after about 2 weeks, I said to my wife, I'm done. I said, I'm going to honor my commitment. I'm not going to leave mid-season, but this is not where I need to be. There's just a lot of things I didn't agree with. And I'm well beyond the X's and O's. I'll leave it at that. Yep. So my wife was working at the front office of Bedford High School. That was a brand new school, had only been around for 1 year, and they were looking for a head coach. And she's like, apply for that. And my wife's my best friend. I said, Jill, love you. Thank you. I said, but I've been a freshman coach for 7 years, a varsity assistant for about 2 weeks now. I'm not the guy. She said, you have nothing to lose. So I applied for the job, and I love it because I'll never forget. I had the first interview. It felt good. They called me back for a second interview, and they said, Coach, if you get the job, Bedford's a very affluent community, a lot of business owners, doctors, lawyers, if you will. They said, if you get the job, how long before you're in the playoffs? And I don't think I'm arrogant, but without skipping a beat, I said 3 to 5 years. And they both, the AD and the principal, laughed. And they said, Coach, you don't have any seniors. If you get this job, you don't have any seniors coming up. I said 3 or 5 years will be in the playoffs. So I got the job. My first year as head coach, we set records in the state of New Hampshire.
Wow.
Well, see, you fell for it. For getting kicked in the teeth more than any other team. We lost every game. I kid you not. Like, at the end of the game, when you walk through and shake hands, everyone says, good game. Whether you win or lose. I don't think anyone even said that to us. They just looked around and they said, beautiful field, great stadium. Like, we were that bad. So we got our teeth kicked in every single night, or every game. And I remember having a meeting at the end of the season with my coaching staff, our coaching staff. And I said, guys, obviously we had the season we had. I'm not going to change just for the sake of it, but it was my first year as head coach. What are some things you'd like to see me do differently? And one of the coaches who I butt heads a lot with, he was a Division I athlete, larger than, I'm not small, but this guy's larger than life.
Yeah.
He goes, I don't think the kids respect you. And I felt myself get like red. I'm like,
that's a poke.
Yeah. So I said, Derek, give me an example. And he's like, I don't know. And I'm like, do the guys talk back? He said, no, they never talk back to you. Do they not listen? He said, no, they always listen. Do they show up late? So I went through this whole kind of list of like not showing respect. And he paused and he goes, no, they don't do any of that. He's like, they're not afraid of you. And I felt such a peace come over me. I said, Derek, those are two completely different things. He's like, yeah, but
Yeah.
you laugh around and have too much fun with them. And he's like, I think a head coach should be feared. And I said, I will always disagree with that. I said, if I have a young, case in point, if I have a young man that is suicidal or is coming out of the closet or gets a girl pregnant or anything that life throws at so many of us, if he
Yeah.
fears me, he's never going to come to me. So
That's right.
what happened was he stayed on staff. We agreed to disagree. Our second year, we won 2 games. Third year, we made the playoffs. We got kicked.
All right.
We got kicked out right away, but we made that first round. And then my last 4 years there, we had 144 young men in the program. We had been to the state championship 3 out of the last 4 years, and not I, but we had built a powerhouse. The thing I love most about that story is that Coach Stank, who the first 2 years were like he and I were like this. His wife is from Oceanside, California, and he just moved out here 3 years ago because they had their first child. He's a head coach down the road, and different division, but he's one of my best friends now.
Isn't that something?
It's amazing how God. I don't want to get preachy to your audience, but for me, how God has worked because he could have walked away. I could have been defensive and fired him off the staff, which would have been a huge mistake because he's a blessing of a coach. He's tremendous. But just having those tough conversations with each other and calling each other out stuff on both ends that we didn't see eye to eye with, instead of ignoring it or letting it flame up and explode. He literally now, I talk to him probably 4 or 5 times a week. We get together at least twice a month, and it's amazing how it's worked out.
Man, that's such a great story, and that's great leadership. Kudos to both of you guys, and for anybody listening. I mean, whether you're a player or a coach, this is what life throws at us. You're going to have adversity, and you guys end up being super tight and still coaching on the other coast. I mean, that's incredible, and we're all about whatever inspires you, including spirituality. So whatever somebody's base is that allows them to give back is very, very important. Very, very important. Exactly why we love talking to you, Coach. So very good stuff. So you've been in this game a long time. I mean, you've coached everything from the long snapper to the quarterback. You've definitely taken your losses. Just listening to that story, man. Living through that is a testimony to your character, by the way, because losing is not easy. How has the game changed since you first came on as a coach? I mean, high school sports seems like it's evolving constantly, and you got to deal with the helicopter parents or the dad who knows more about football than you do. My son is going to be the quarterback for the Dallas Cowboys. You just haven't figured it out yet. Yep. How has the game changed, and how do you deal with that?
It's funny. I think the way the game has changed the most is I'm going to use concussions and crack blocks. I think there's a greater awareness now, which is a good thing. But I also think the game is safer now than ever before. With the equipment we use, with the protocols, as far as concussion protocol, return to play, and all that stuff, I think it's safer than ever. I do miss some of the things like crack blocks. I'm not talking. I
used to be good at those because I was tiny.
They were beautiful. They were like the equalizer for the smaller player on a bigger D end or whatever linebacker. I really don't know if the game has changed a lot. And I don't think the kids have changed at all. I really don't. I think we as parents and coaches and teachers have changed. You talk about the whole society of everyone gets a trophy. It didn't start from a 2-year-old. It didn't start from a 4-year-old. It started from an adult somewhere that said, hey, my son or daughter showed up, so they should get a trophy. And one of the things I love most about football, and I'm sure this applies for all sports and many other things in life, whether it's theater or whatever, if we as leaders approach the blessing of what we're leading, sports or whatever it is, the right way, we have a captive audience. My students who I love have got to be my students. They have to go to school. By law, they have to go to public school or private school or charter or whatever. Our football players don't have to show up. Sometimes you have mom or dad that's, and I have a funny story about that if we get to it or not, but sometimes mom or dad makes someone play, but usually they choose to be there. So we have a captive audience that if we don't like something we're seeing as far as kids wearing hats in school, for example, or talking back to officials or you name it, we can set that example as coaches and demand, for lack of better words, that they show the same type of character and respect. And that's one of the greatest successes we've had so far this year. We're blessed right now to be sitting at 5-1, heading into our league play. And we have a tough league this year, so we've got a lot of work to do. But one of the greatest successes is one of our captains this year. He was a captain last year as a junior. His freshman and sophomore year, he was a bonehead. I was getting emails from teachers and administration all the time about him and kind of took him under my wing, and 99.9% of the credit goes to him, but with the help of his parents and the coaches and I. He's become such an amazing young man on and off the field. And that's why I love it. I think the game is the game. It's certain rules have changed, and the equipment's safer and certain things I don't like about it. But I don't think the kids have changed much. And I think as coaches, if we say, oh, kids are soft, well, let's teach them to not be. Let's teach them. And I had a great conversation with the players just last Thursday, I think it was, about toughness. And I said, man, for me growing up, when I thought about the word toughness, it was the biggest, strongest cat in the team that could just run through everyone. And there's some truth to that still. But when I think about toughness now, my mind goes to my cousin John, who has since passed away. But he was from Kansas, farm boy, could do anything well, and just had a heart of gold. Got into a car accident in his mid-30s, became a quadriplegic, and couldn't feed himself, couldn't dress himself, couldn't wipe himself as a grown man, and put himself back into college, sitting in a wheelchair with one finger that could move a clicker. And I was like, he showed me what strength is all about. So to show our players, controlling another team, that's our goal on Friday nights. You want to dominate physically your opponent. But I said a lot of teams can do that. What you want to do is Monday or Sunday through Thursday, you want to dominate your own life. You want to dominate yourself in the classroom. You want to dominate yourself, with your homework. You want to dominate yourself when a teacher that maybe doesn't like you for whatever reason is maybe rude to you, really, not just your perception. And you want to have the character to just keep your mouth closed and be respectful. I think we have a tremendous platform as coaches to really do a lot of good things.
Oh, it's so true. And I completely am remiss at our intro of you that you are also a motivational speaker, and your leadership comes through in these conversations, because it really is about dominating off the field as well, and being able to take that metaphor and have a young guy apply that, and young women who are now playing the game too, is really, really cool. Absolutely love that.
And we have a young woman on our team this year who's just a stud.
Oh, great.
Running back, linebacker. I love everything about her. She is a football player through and through.
Oh my God, I love that story. How is she doing with that?
Not good, to answer the question. So she played last year.
She's struggling.
Last year she played. She scored a touchdown in a varsity game. Her softball coach was not happy with her for playing football because he didn't want her getting hurt, which I hate stuff like that. She ended up breaking her finger in softball after the football season last year, but she just found out 2 days ago she fractured her wrist. So her name's Tatum, and she's been on several different things, so I know she wouldn't mind me sharing. But she is she's one of the best, not best athletes, but best young women, young human beings, young men, young women I've ever coached. She is tough as nails. In our game 2 weeks ago, we were kind of doing running back by committee. There were 5 running backs that I was just rotating every play because we had a very good lead, and we weren't running counters or traps or no passes, just downhill, dive left, dive right, And
B gap, here we go.
and she got rocked by this cat that was about 350, and he laid her out, and she came to the sideline, kind of running, staggered a little bit, and she looked at me with the biggest smile, and she said, "Coach, he's big." I said, Tatum, I love you, because just a lot of other people say, "Hey, Coach, I'm good now," would fake an injury, and so I'm praying for her. She gets her cast on Tuesday or Wednesday, and then her parents, and the doctor will decide if she's just going to club it up. And I said, it would limit, obviously, not all, but maybe a lot of your running back plays, depending on how big the cast is in the club.
Yeah.
With Tatum, I said, you can still play linebacker and make some noise. So I'm hoping for her that she's able to
I love it.
The season.
God, that's great. I had no idea you had a female player. I absolutely love that. Good for her. Go get him, Tatum. Yeah, I mean, she took her hit, right?
Yeah.
And she got up. That's what it's all about. It transfers to life. Absolutely love it. So that's a nice segue into how I actually discovered you, Coach, which is the ridiculous world of the internet and Twitter, your viral post. And I got to tell you, I was so impressed with this story. Like we've been talking about it at our dinner table way out here in Oregon, that you had a player come to you who just didn't love the game of football.
Yeah.
And if you haven't seen the video, folks, search for Coach Curt Hines on Twitter and take a peek at the conversation. It was in real time. It was organic. You've taken a lot of heat from some people, like you're teaching kids to be quitters. Absolutely absurd from where I sit. Tell us about that story. You had a young guy come to you, go, just not in love with the game.
Yeah.
How do you handle that?
Well, it's funny. I tell our players every year at the beginning of the season how much I love football. And I say it's not for everyone. And I said, when you choose to quit, because every year I said, I don't know if I've ever had a season as an assistant or as a head coach where the entire roster stays the same. Usually you have someone fall off or whatever. And I said, when you do it, please don't lie to yourself or lie to me and say you want to focus on grades. Because no one, whether you are a high academic person or not, no one goes home at 3:30 and does homework till 9:30. They just don't. So I said, if your heart's not in it, say your heart's not in it. If you're not passionate, say you're not passionate. If you're afraid, say you're afraid. And so this young man, he played for me for last year was his first year. He and his brother moved here. His brother had graduated. And hadn't had a full week of practice, was missing 1 or 2 practices a week. I knew he was off and could never really get to the heart of it with him because I tried to have those personal conversations. And he came in one day with his, as you saw in the video, with his equipment washed and packed up and ready to go and shook me in the hand. And I was just getting ready to head out to practice. And I said, John, I almost said his name. I said, do me a favor. I said, hey, sit down for a second. I said, just tell me where your mind is right now. Where's your heart? And he started to say, he's like, yeah, we're a football family. My dad loves football. My mom loves football. Obviously, my brother loves football. And I said, stop. I said, do you love football? And I just saw him go from tense to just, no.
Yeah.
And then I lit up. I said, then you're not quitting. I said, you're changing your path in life to go something after you're passionate about. I said, don't ever think of yourself as a quitter. I said, because, and as you and I talked offline a little bit, a lot of us leave one job to go to another. Now, we might finish the school year or we might finish the fiscal year or whatever it is, and hopefully we do it with character and give the 2 weeks notice or whatever it is. But if we leave a relationship with a young woman we're dating and we eventually find our wife, that's not quitting. It's just that wasn't for me.
Great.
So when he said that, I said to him, man, I said, it takes a lot of courage to come in here. So I talked to him. I said, what are you passionate about? And he smiled, told me some things he's passionate about. And I said, go be great in that. And then he was leaving. I gave him a hug, said, I love you. I said, if you ever need anything, let me know. And I said, can I share this with the team? And can I just share this? And he just smiled. He said, Coach, I thought you were going to be so mad at me. And I said, I love you. I said, if I'm mad at you, I said, I'm the biggest fraud. I mentioned Twitter. I said, I'm the biggest fraud on Twitter, the biggest fraud in life. I said, if my number one goal, which it is for coaching, is I love winning. But if my number one goal is to empower young men and young women to be better young men and young women, then that means empowering. I shouldn't say that means. That means to me, empowering them in things that aren't also related to football. And if that means that they're stepping away from football, then so be it. So he beamed. He said, yeah, Coach, please feel free to share. And someone on Twitter said, yeah, there were a lot of nasty comments. Someone said, he probably sucked. He probably wasn't any good and probably wasn't a starting quarterback. And I shared very nicely with someone in a private message. I said, last year during COVID, our starting quarterback did step away from the game because CIF rules in California, he could only play 2 sports. And his coaches in baseball said, you get a better future in baseball. And I wasn't thrilled about their message to him about that. But he stepped away, and I'm still in touch with him to this day. We had to start a freshman for our varsity last year because of it. And we were blessed to win league last year with a lot of kids, a lot of young men and young women stepping up. But it's the sad thing about the viral video for me, and it was fun and it was cool, but was that so many people were shocked by it. I said, we need to make this the norm. We need to make, empowering our young men and young women and celebrating their choices the norm, not something that's shocking.
I couldn't agree more, man. I thought that was so cool that you shared that. Just bizarre, the reaction that people have, especially when you hear your reasoning with this young guy. And I'll tell you what, folks, check in with that young man in 5 years. Amen. I'll bet you he'll be real good at something.
Amen.
It's just not his world.
Right. And I said to the team, once again, with his permission, I said, hey, so-and-so had just handed in stuff. I said, remember who we are. And I was intense there just because we're on the football field. And I said, when you see him in the hallways, when you see him at the lunch table, you dang well better treat him the same way you did yesterday when he was on the team. I said, make sure you do not let him feel that he's lesser of a person or not as valuable now because he's now having to suit up on Friday nights. And it's a little bit what the coaches and I are creating, but what the young men and Tatum are building here is I have no doubt that they're doing that. And I've reached out to him since to make sure he's doing well. But life is hard enough for all of us. Yep. Without people forcing us to live their goals and their dreams, and he's following his own, and I love that for him.
Absolutely. Great message, coach. Just tip my hat to you and to that young guy for being true to who he is. It's just crazy. You've seen actually guys at the pro football level say, I'm just not in love with the game anymore.
Yeah.
We recently lost Andrew Luck. Is it Myron Roll who came into the league and is now a neurosurgeon? He stepped away from football because he was really interested in medicine. Folks, not the very nature of football is so physical. It's not meant for everybody. Just like, ballet isn't meant for anybody. I was really staggered by the responses, but man, it was the number one reason I wanted to, excuse me, the number one reason I wanted to meet you was what a great message to a young man. And I can't wait to see and hear down the road what happens with him. So sticking to football, coach, how do you deal with losing? What's your message to kids? Because it's sports, you're going to lose. And you had a completely winless season in the beginning. How do you deal with that? And what's the lesson there?
Yeah. I look back at that my first season as a head coach, still to this day, one of the greatest seasons I ever had as a coach. Not most enjoyable by any stretch of the imagination. That was painful. When I would park my truck to go into Saturday morning coaches meetings, that 3-minute walk to the front door felt like 30-minute, walk down, Green Mile, if you will. I think you have to embrace losing for what it is. And everyone says, "Oh, I never lose. I always, I win or I learn." That sounds great, but to really embrace that, I hate losing. But it's my wife and I have been married for 27 years. We've had 2 really big come to Jesus, heartfelt, tear-filled
marriage
battles, if you will, in our marriage. And those are those 2 defeats, if you will, have made us stronger in every way. And with our children, I think, addressing the hard things with your children when they're teenagers or whatever it is, whatever seems like a struggle or a loss, or when our back's against the wall, it's really taking the opportunity to say, all right, why is this here for me right now? What can I learn from this? And I had read before, don't remember where, not my own, but life doesn't happen to us; it happens for us. And for me, that was a paradigm shift. I was like, dang, it's easy for me to praise God when things are going well, but am I still praising Him when we're in the middle of COVID? Am I still praising Him when we had a game scheduled and they forfeited? Losing, I think what we have to do as coaches, as parents, as teachers, as players, is truly learn from our losses. And it takes a lot of. It's so easy to watch film until 2 a.m. on a Friday night when you win. It's so easy. That alarm goes off at 5 a.m. You slap the alarm. You hop in the shower. You're all smiles and stuff. But are you doing the same thing when you lose? Are you still staying up till 2 o'clock breaking down film, or even longer? Really, much longer. So I think how you address losing is just as an opportunity to get better. I tell players, we had a JV player that had a great game this past Thursday. So we're bringing him up to varsity a little bit more. I told him, I said, Nolan, do me a favor. I said, mess up in practice constantly. He looked at me. My JV coach laughed. And I said, what do I mean by that? He goes, Coach, I have no idea. I said, Nolan, the more you mess up in practice, the more you're going to learn, and the less you're going to mess up on Friday night. I said, so fight for reps. Just get in there. So I don't think I'll ever be one of those coaches, although someone's going to hear this and go back and search my Twitter and say, no, you said this once. If I did, shame on me.
Whatever.
But I don't think I'm one of the coaches that say I hate losing more than I love winning. I love winning. I think it does something to your soul.
Absolutely.
But I think
that's why we do it.
Yeah, and I think the longer you're in this game of football or life, you realize that in order to have greater success, you have to embrace the failures, the losses.
Yeah, so true. That's funny. You just jogged my own memory. I had a coach tell me as an upperclassman, I didn't drop anything. I only ran a 4.7, but I had good hands, folks. I'm Uncle Rico here. But I'll tell you what, he had me run over by the underclassmen several times and drop a couple fades. And I thought he was nuts. I was like, what are you doing? And he wanted to teach them a lesson. Yeah. He came screaming over there and lit me up. Did not warn me he was going to do any of this. But I've never forgot. You just jogged my memory on that. It's funny. Great coaching, man. I just love it. So another question I just always wanted to ask a coach at your level. How do you deal with a kid and maybe even the family in a lot of cases? There's just a really good, solid high school football player, but he's not going to go on to Division I. He's not going to be in the NFL. How do you deal with that dream with a young man who may love the game, and he may end up being the next coach, Curt Hines, but he thinks he's on his way to the NFL.
Yeah, that's hard. And I can only share what I've done. I don't know if it's going to share any wisdom or answers for anyone else. I think all of life comes down to relationships. I think the more I feel more connected to you just seeing you face to face this morning than the past 3 weeks that we've been, communicating through email or social media. I think the first thing that helps all of us, I mean, players, parents, coaches, is if you take the time to get to know your players personally, not just a number, not just a roster, not someone just on the depth chart, but get to know what makes them tick. What we talk all the time at our football program, we have a little sticker on the back of our helmet that just has the word why. I tell them I was part of a program, not myself, but we built a powerhouse in Bedford, New Hampshire. Why would I leave that? Well, because my daughter had a son. We had our grandson. So we sold everything, moved across country. We knew nothing. Back in small town, Bedford, New Hampshire, Goffstown, New Hampshire, we would joke about it as a family, but everywhere where we went within a 4-hour radius, someone knew me. And it was fun. It was enjoyable. We moved out here to San Diego. No one knew me, and no one should have. I'm not that special, no matter how much I think I am. And we had to kind of start life all over again. So I tell them my why was, for me, it's faith, family, football. I can share and live my faith anywhere. I want to be with my family. That I have 4 young children. They're all 23 and older. And our grandson was out here. Now we have 2 grandsons. I said, football, if I only chase wins on the field, I need to stay at a certain school and go to a certain level. If my desire and my goal and my passion really is to empower people, I can do that in 8-man football. I can do it in the NFL. If I were good enough, I could do it collegiately. I could do it high school. So I think, what we have to do is get to know our student athletes personally. And when they do, and I have had a few that thought they were a lot better than they were, I really try to encourage them to sit down with me and watch some film of players that play at that level. They see themselves at that same position. And I had one young man, obviously I won't say his name, that didn't start for us back in New Hampshire any of his years. Not even his senior year didn't start for us. And we had built a pretty good program. And sometimes you have powerhouse programs that the kids that don't start would start at a lot of other programs. So one of my coaches and I met with him and said, hey, you want to play college ball. Here are schools we think you could do well at, to compete at. And we even behind closed doors thought, man, he's going to have to fight tooth and nail for 2 to 3 years to fight for a position there. And he wanted to go to D1 school, and he said, I'm going to prove you wrong. And I remember looking at him and said, I love that. I said, please do. I said, I believe in you as a person. As a football player, I don't think that's a right fit for you. And he wasn't happy with me. He went there. He walked on, didn't make the team. And then he went somewhere else, didn't make the team. And sometimes it's just, I think sometimes the best thing we can do as coaches is just be honest with them. Just love them enough to be honest with them and say, hey, listen, please prove me wrong. I have nothing to gain by this, but I think this is not the right fit for you, or this is. I believe sooner or later, not all, but most parents, most families, most players will see the method to our madness and see what we're doing. But just like anything else in life, there are going to be those people out there that just said, well, if coach had only put me at this position, or if he only ran this offense, or if he only did this. And that's, a lot of coaches say you have to have a thick skin. And I used to say that. And now for me, it comes down to having a strong why. A thick skin for me might have me be standoffish to people in the stands and parents and just, I'm the coach, you're the parent, let's leave it at that. That's not who I am. I love building relationships with people. So having a strong why allows me to say, listen, I understand some people won't like me. Some people are going to hate me. But if I know at the end of the day, I can look in the mirror and say, I'm doing what's best for these young men and young women. I'm trying to bless them as much as I can. I can live with that.
Ah, Coach, that's awesome. We need so much more of that right now, especially in athletics, but just as a culture, we just need that, support people. Everybody's different. I've used the analogy a million times in my own life. Not everybody's a left guard. Some guys, right? some guys, a 5'7" speedy wide receiver. You don't plug and play people in positions just because we think they should be there. We're all different.
Yeah.
So absolutely love that, man. And you stole my thunder. I was going to ask you what's your why, and I love it. You just let it rip, and I absolutely love that. It's on your website along with some tremendous quotes at CoachCurtHeinz.com. Please go look at that, folks. It is having a why is absolutely critical in our day and age. So, Coach, I have about 500 more questions for you, but I'm going to have to get some time with you down the road because I know you're busy. You're coming off game night last night. You've got film, breakdown, and players to get to. We like to end every show with a 2-minute drill, and this is absolutely for fun. That's the whole point of it. We want to know the coach.
Yes, sir.
So we're going to have some fun with this. I want to put you through our 2-minute drill. You pretty good in the 2-minute drill?
We'll find out. We practice it a lot. We'll find out.
He's solid in the red zone, folks. I love it. Okay. This is a big one and one that I really enjoyed also from your Twitter. It seems like we're bringing that up a lot, but that's our world now. 2 minutes, the clock is on. What's your morning routine for success, Coach Hines?
Yeah, daily prayer with my wife, worship music as I shower.
Nice.
I drive about a half an hour commute to work. I drive and pray and listen to worship music. That for me, that's my strength. It's just I know who I am. I know who I am. I know whose I am. I know why I'm here in this world. And I feel like I'm one of the richest people I know. And most of my family and friends make more money than me. So how I define success has nothing to do with my bank account. How I define success as a coach, as much as I love winning and I realize we have to win to keep our jobs, has nothing to do with the scoreboard. Some of my greatest years as a coach have been, 500 years or 04 years, but we kept building the things the right way. So my morning routine is, based around worship music and faith, and it hasn't failed me yet.
Good for you, man. And I know you get up early because I've been chasing some of your like 5:30 a.m. stuff. Ooh, man, you're killing me there. I got to make some changes. Okay. What was your jersey number as a player?
In high school, I was 50. I was a center and defensive end. In college, I was 84. And it's always funny.
We wore the same number, man.
Really?
I was a wide receiver, 84, my freshman year.
I guarantee you had better hands than me.
But I could. Yeah, you're slow.
So 50 and 84.
I love it, man. Very nice. I think jersey numbers are personal. We had to learn that.
Absolutely.
Do you have a go-to game day meal, game night, I should say, for you, Friday Night Lights?
I don't. I have a pregame ritual. I'll shower before every game. I do a double shave for this dome right here.
It's looking good, man.
And, I don't have a preset. I'm not superstitious, by any stretch of the imagination. I've gotten smarter over the years. I used to, my first few years coaching, man, that alarm would hit on a Friday morning and AC/DC's going Back in Black, Thunderstruck, and my heart, I'm surprised I'm still alive because my heart would be pounding through my chest all day until 2 a.m. So I've gotten better with sticking to the worship music until about 3 o'clock in the afternoon, and then it's all game time stuff there.
Oh man, we got it. That's a whole other podcast between us. We got to talk music. Yes. I absolutely love that. Yes. Good stuff, man. Yeah, it's funny how you age, that changes, right? It's like, I got to mix in a little bit of something else. Okay, here's an important one because I know your best friend. You've stated it. I picked up on it. Your family means the world to you. Yes. Your wife, your best friend, your greatest supporter. What would you say is your best quality?
Wow. Caring for people.
That's a tough one, right?
I think caring for people. We're blessed that we pray every morning, every night together. So she hears all the prayers for players, for the good, the bad, everything in between. I'm blessed in that she is my biggest supporter, and I used to ask her at the end of every football season, "Hey, do you want me to do this again?" Until she said, "Curt, stop asking." She's like, "I love everything about it." She is, we always say outkicked our coverage. She's my best friend. I just love spending time with her. And I think she would say that, my greatest strength is just caring for people and following through with it.
Yeah, I've only known you a very brief time, and I would say your compassion and empathy come through, man. And good for her. Football wives are so special. They make a lot of sacrifices.
Yeah, they hear a lot and deal with a lot. And that's one of the things I've always, whenever I've been blessed to be a head coach in New Hampshire and now here in Coronado, we never have coaches meetings ever on Sundays. Wow. I ask our coaches you guys figure out your own time, you work on your own schedule, but we want everything broken down by noon on Sunday. That means if you stay up till the wee hours or whatever night or day it is, get it done. But we make sure we have balance. We make sure we have family time.
I love it. Yeah, big message out of today. Big message. Okay, a little more fun. We're filming a movie of your life. Who plays you? I got some ideas, but I can't wait to. Who's the actor that plays Coach Curt Hines on the
Man,
big
you
screen?
know what's funny? I would love to take the role myself and get the money, but if I had to choose someone, I'm gonna go with Stone Cold Steve Austin. He's bigger than me. He's badder than me, but yeah,
I would literally. I'm thinking he's Stone Cold Steve or he's The Rock. I
there
mean,
you
you
go.
can't go either way. So there's our guy. Man, that is hilarious. Couldn't
Yeah,
agree more. Okay, there you go. Come on, call us, Cold
yeah,
Stone. Call us. All
please.
right. Okay, real quickly then. What do you love about the game? What do you hate about the game,
Love
if anything?
love everything about the game. I really do.
Me too.
I love the violence. I love the chess match. I love breaking down film. I love the weight room. I'm not a fan of equipment distribution or collection. Those 2 days, collecting the equipment, and handing it out and collecting it. Um, I you know the administrative stuff as far as dealing with. I shouldn't say dealing with the AD, but answering a lot of emails, stuff like that. That takes its toll, every so often. But it's all part of it. I think we can't ask God to bless us in certain areas of our lives and say, yeah, but exclude this part that helps me get there. A lot of the hard stuff along the way has helped me to be the coach I am currently, and the coach I still aim to be.
Oh, I love it. I love it, man. Yeah, folks, listen, all those parents out there, high school coaches, junior high school coaches, Pop Warner coaches, man, they do a lot of stuff that aren't X's and O's.
Mm-hmm.
So important, coach.
It's
I
not,
want to
not
thank
90.
you,
I'm
man.
sorry. Yeah, I was gonna say 90% of what we do is not X's and O's.
Yeah, it really
Truly.
isn't. It really isn't. And that's why it's such an important job. Coaches in any sport, but football, like you, my friend, I love the physicality. You find out if you're a football player real early the first time you get hit in the mouth.
Yeah.
You decide, I like this, I don't like this. And there's nothing wrong with either one. But like you, I love it. Hey, Coach, I want to thank you for taking time, especially on a Saturday morning here after Friday Night Lights. Really busy time for a high school coach. And where can we follow you if we want some daily inspiration? Because you get some good stuff.
Well, first of all, thank you for having me on. Truly, it's a blessing and honor to connect with you, and I'm excited to continue this relationship.
Please.
Anyone, it's Coach Curt Hines on Twitter, Instagram. I do have a website, CoachCurtHines.com. I've probably been to my website the least out of anyone I know. There's no reason for me to go there, But yeah, it's just, and I've been blessed to be able to speak at different clinics or companies and businesses. I love connecting with people. Years ago when I first got on Twitter, I did it reluctantly because my wife was like, just hop on there and you can find out scores of different games, and it's opened up so many doors and allowed me to meet so many great people. So I think it's like a loaded gun. In the right hands at the right time, it can do a lot of good. In the wrong hands, it can ruin a lot of things.
Man, you got some of the best analogies. I'm like ripping off so much stuff today. Good stuff. Do. Yeah, folks, please. He is being humble, and he probably hasn't been there. None of us go to our websites, but CoachCurtHines.com. Great motivational talks. You can see some of the stuff he's done in the past at coaching clinics and podcasts. Can't recommend it enough. And then at Coach Curt Hines. Man, I love the Twitter stuff. I'm following you right now. So please go follow the coach and go support Islander football. If you're in the community, I wish I was closer, man. Sure. We never miss Friday Night Lights here. So good luck to you guys the rest of the way. And Coach, I just want to thank you again. I look forward to a long friendship. We're going to stay connected.
Same. I appreciate you and enjoy your weekend.
Thanks, Coach. We will see you soon. Follow us at gridironicon.com. And thanks for stopping in.